Today I want to recap Oklahoma's win against Texas Christian and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. So it's college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today I want to recap Oklahoma's 30-14 victory against Texas Christian at Amon G. Carter Stadium, which had about 12,000 folks in it to watch what many of us thought was going to happen, which is that Oklahoma was going to roll over Texas Christian. Earlier in the year, when Gary Patterson was still feeling himself, he said, "I hate that everybody judges the Big 12 on whether or not OU or Texas is good. And after beating Texas, I get why he understands that. But since Oklahoma's beat Texas and Texas Christian in back-to-back games, you understand why we continue to say all roads to the Big 12 championship title roll through Norman." As Oklahoma State and Iowa State got to throw one another an L. Kansas State is over to roll over Kansas. We'll see if they're there at the end. Baylor gets an opportunity to try to unseat Texas further in what I think could be a seminal moment for Dave Aranda. But the way that I looked at this game is that Oklahoma was able to play sloppily and still explosively. Spencer Rattler had 332 yards passing on 13 completions. Now, he had drops, right? Charleston Rambo dropped one that I think would have gone for 6. Austin Stogner dropped a couple. But you also had an outstanding display from running back TJ Pledger. And earlier in the game, Seth McGowan. Even as this offensive line is still not good, right? They weren't terrible today, obviously, because, well, they had opportunities to be that. But they were able to give Rattler enough time to try to pick apart Gary Patterson's vaunted 4.25, and he was able to find Marvin Mims on a touchdown pass of 50 yards and a touchdown pass of 61 yards, for total for 132 yards. He was able to distribute the football to guys like Theo Weiss, but defensively, that is what we wanted to see from Oklahoma, and you want them to put that together. As a matter of fact, Grinch has been very bullish in saying, look, we play any better, and we remember how to finish football games. We're dangerously close to being called a good defense. And against Texas Christian, they showed that. They held Max Duggan to under 250 yards passing, which I don't think is that big a deal. But they were also able to keep them from getting on the scoreboard, right? 14 points in this league for that defense is outstanding, especially when you take into account they weren't allowing Texas Christian to run the ball almost at all. I looked up at one point in the third quarter, and Texas Christian averaged 1.6 yards per rush. And if you're taking a look at their leading rushers, you're looking at Foster, who had 5 rushes for 20 yards. Max Duggan had 9 for 18. I mean, Zach Evans and Darwin Barlow could do nothing. Barlow was 4 for 6 yards. Outstanding run defense for Oklahoma, and they were able to keep a guy that I think is going to make some money in the NFL, and Tay Barber, in check. 6 catches for 66 yards, and then Pro Wells was able to turn 2 catches into 58 yards with a touchdown. But the 4-star recruit, Quentin Johnson, who flipped from Texas to Texas Christian, didn't do much to hurt you, and you were able to really weather what I thought was kind of a storm there in the second quarter, where Oklahoma's up 17-7 in a game where I thought Texas Christian would have at least been able to close it to 17-10. And even at that point, they're up 7 in a game where they're on pace to put up more than 500 yards at that time, 251 yards in the first half. And the defense is doing its job. You just can't finish plays. And that has been what I've taken away largely from Oklahoma this year. 2 things. One, the offensive line's got to get better. The addition of Chris Murray, especially late in the game, seemed to help with that. So we'll see how that continues to go. I want to see Creed Humphrey get back to being the kind of guy that he was when Lincoln Riley said the most talented football player on our team is not Kyler Murray, it's Creed Humphrey. And on either side of him, you got guards that played a bunch of football, Tyrese Robinson, Marquise Hayes, and then Adrian Ely was actually looking pretty good, right? You can talk about Eric Swenson, we can talk about left tackle, but I thought that the Buki bashing was going to continue because that's what y'all like to do. Y'all like to bash on Buki, and sometimes people like to join you. He had some stupid penalties. But I would rather have a guy that's super physical, that's going to pick up the penalties, than have to teach a guy how to go look for somebody to take out, right? I also add to this caveat for the one that lasted the last 3 years, which is you cannot penalize that man for playing safety and nickel. He's a cornerback. He's never been allowed to play cornerback, and it bothers me, right? It bothers me. But you're getting outstanding play on your defensive line. Isaiah Thomas is continuing to develop into a monster. Marcus Stripling is outstanding, right? We know we're getting out of Brian Asamoah. He's dependable. You know who Deshaun White is. Pat Fields still solidifies his position as the captain of that defense and the guy that's actually pulling the strings at free safety. I think there's a lot of positives to pull from this. The first of which, though, has to be getting the W. Because now Oklahoma has more wins than losses, which is where Oklahoma's supposed to be every year. But 1-2 to 2-2 to now 3-2. My goodness, I feel much better about that. And they get Texas Tech, which they ought to roll over them. And you got to hope that somebody just trips up a Kansas State, trips up a Baylor, an Iowa State, trips up an Oklahoma State. We'll see how that continues to roll out. But I can't ask much more out of this defense than I got today, even as Max Duggan completed 70.6% of his passes, 268 yards, so he didn't keep him under 250. That's on me. I didn't look at what they had done going into the last 3 minutes. So it's 33-14. So let me correct that as a score as well. Gary Patterson. So I sit down here to do this because I'm thinking, take a knee and get out of here. No, Oklahoma's going to continue to. They're going to continue to play football. All right, fine. I guess it's because it's Gary Patterson, right? Because you know that Lincoln Riley and Gary Patterson love matching against each other because he's the offensive guru, he's the defensive guru. One guy sweats way too much, one guy sweats not at all. I also have a Gary Patterson story that I can't wait to tell y'all one day. Today is not that day, but it's a good story, and I've filed it away along with a bunch of other great stories that I got in my head. Also, shout to Holly Rowe, who did an outstanding job, sideline reporter. It's rare that I hear about the folks on the broadcast talking about recruiting in a meaningful way, and yet here she is pulling Sooner Summit out and Caleb Williams and talking about the dead period. I'm going, this is the content that I'm here for. This is what I crave. This is why I want Holly Rowe on the sideline. She's going to give me that. She's also going to give me offensive line combinations. And as much as she catches flack for that, I love offensive line combinations. I love knowing that stuff. And it becomes a inside football broadcast, and I don't think that's what most people want. But when I can get it, I'm going to enjoy it, especially with this game being on ABC because Fox picked up Ohio State, Nebraska. We'll see how this continues to shake out, but I've said it before, and I will continue to say it. Oklahoma in 2021 is not a problem. It's a national champ. Trajan Bridges is back with Theo Weiss. You might actually just keep Ramondre Stevenson on the shelf, be able to bring him back because you get another year of eligibility because everybody gets another year of eligibility. Huh? See what I'm thinking about? See there? Right? That's what I'm saying, right? Play chess, not checkers. Play chess, not checkers. TJ Pledger is asserting himself as the dominant tailback in that offense. Back-to-back 100-yard rushing performances for him. Let me make sure I get the number right. 22 for 122. Last game, he had 22 for 131. So he's obviously the dude right now. Being able to get more out of Charleston Rambo, I would like that individually because I expected Rambo to pick up where CeeDee Lamb left off, where Hollywood Brown left off. But I'll take what I can get. All right, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. Deuces.